We are back with the director of the Elon Poll, Dr. Jason Husser, this time talking about all things Supreme Court. Some major decisions the court made this week before going on summer recess. Let's start by talking about mail-in ballots, such a hot-button issue. We know the court voted narrowly 5-4 to uphold that Mississippi law, allowing the counting of ballots up to 5 days post-election, as long as they have that postmark on or before Election Day. Interestingly, Jason, North Carolina had a 3-day grace period up until 2023 when that went away with the passing of legislation. How will this court decision affect our mail-in ballot process, do you think?
This immediate court decision was about a narrow case in Mississippi, which allowed additional days. Mississippi's a very rural state for mail-in ballots to come in. It still required the mail-in ballots to be voted on Election Day. It doesn't really impact North Carolina right now. North Carolina has already limited the amount of grace period. There's still a grace period in North Carolina for overseas and military voters, but the state also has rules to try to get those in as close to the election as possible. So right now, what we're not seeing an effect of this Watson decision, but what we do see an effect of is that North Carolina has been sort of reaffirmed that the state has a lot of power to set its own election rules.
So to reinstate a grace period here, you would need essentially a new law to undo what passed in 2023?
Yeah, the Supreme Court basically has said that the laws that are in place, at least in Mississippi, are valid. So that means that North Carolina could reinstate a grace period.
Yeah.
We can see some states out west that have grace periods of up to 21 days. I don't think that's going to happen in North Carolina anytime soon, but the provisions we currently have for overseas and military ballots are safe for now. And those do come up sometimes. We saw those coming up a bit in the Page versus Berger recount that was going on.
Yeah, so as of now, for the midterms, mail-in ballots are due by 7:30 election night. So does the SCOTUS ruling automatically invalidate that grace period for any other states, do you think?
We don't see any immediate changes from the SCOTUS ruling on really forcing any state to change things. In fact, it largely protects what states are already doing. So SCOTUS essentially is reaffirming, as they did in some other recent cases, that states have a great deal of discretion to set laws within the boundaries that Congress allows them. Now, what I could see happening is that a Republican Congress, particularly if Republicans keep the House next year, says that they want to see election results sooner. They don't want to sort of make people wait longer to find out the results, and as a result, passes a piece of legislation federally that reins in grace periods across all states. But the court essentially said that's for Congress to do, it's not for them to do.
And let's talk about the other opinion that directly affects North Carolina legislation, the one about transgender athletes. North Carolina was one of the 29 states that has a law on the books barring people who identify as transgender females from playing on women and girls sports teams. So essentially this ruling is saying North Carolina can keep that controversial law on the books, right?
The Supreme Court essentially protected North Carolina's law that distinguishes and sets regulations about transgender athletes. This means that we're not going to see any immediate change to what was in place in North Carolina. There was a possibility the court was going to rule in favor that would have forced North Carolina and other states to change. But the court essentially affirmed what was happening both in North Carolina as well as across the nation in Republican-controlled states. So we're not seeing a change right now. Some commentators are suggesting that the definition of sex in this ruling could mean that other forms of regulation or protections end up getting looked at more closely by the courts, particularly in regards to workplace discrimination.
All right, Jason, so much to discuss. Thank you so much for your time and your insight as always.